Let's take a couple of moments and we're going to walk through the audio settings when the system is set up in its standard mode on Pioneer's DEH-X6900BT. Now please note, these are the audio settings for the standard mode. There's a whole separate video for audio settings when the system is set up in its network mode. Even though your particular in-dash receiver may or may not have a CD slot across the top like this one, the on-screen and button operation is identical for the following Pioneer models: MVH-X580BS, DEH-X6800BS, DEH-X6900BT, DEH-X7800BHS, DEH-X8800BHS. So from any source, and right now we're on the auxiliary source, we'll press in on the volume control, and we want to roll along here until we find the audio menu. Here's audio, and we'll press enter. The first thing we see here are the EQ settings, and when you press enter here, you can get into the EQ settings, and there is a full video about the EQ settings. If you're looking for more information on the EQ settings, please check out the EQ settings video. Now we'll go back and roll over to the next setting, which is the fade control. And if we press enter here, we can fade forward or back. When you're done making your settings there, we can go back and roll over to the next setting, which is our balance control. This is right to left, where we can balance. And when you're done making your settings there, you can go back and roll over to the next setting, which is our subwoofer output. Now, this says the subwoofer output is switched on, and I can also switch the subwoofer output off here. Now, if I switch the subwoofer output off and I roll over to the next setting, we go right to speaker level. Now, let me go back here, and we'll switch the subwoofer output on. And now when I roll over to the next setting, my next setting is the subwoofer phase, normal or reverse phase. Now be sure to check both of these in your vehicle, the normal or reverse phase. One of them might sound significantly better than the other. For right now, we'll leave that on the reverse phase, and we'll roll along to the next setting, which is our speaker levels. And we're going to open up this setting because there are multiple settings in here. This system has an individual speaker level control for each speaker in the system. This is the front left speaker. This is the front right speaker. This is the rear left speaker and the rear right speaker, and then a separate setting for the subwoofer. So let's go around here to the front left speaker and press enter. And here we can boost or cut the output to the front left speaker independent of the other speakers in the system. Now for best audio quality, be sure to have each of these settings at 0 or lower. So instead of boosting up the output level of one speaker, consider lowering the output level of other speakers to compensate for that one. And if you have these speaker levels at 0 or lower, you'll be able to turn up your master volume control without fear of distortion. When you're done making your speaker level adjustments here, we can go back and roll over to the next setting, which is our crossover settings. And here we have an adjustment for the front crossover, the rear crossover, and the subwoofer crossover. So let's open up the front crossover settings here. And right now the front crossover is switched off. If we roll over with the volume control, we have switched on a high pass filter, crossed over at 100 Hertz with a 12 dB per decibel, or 12 dB per octave slope. So let's press in on the volume control here, and we can adjust the crossover point. And we have a wide range of crossover points to choose from here in standard mode. And once you've chosen a crossover point, and we'll choose 80 Hertz for right now, I'll press enter, and I can adjust the slope for the crossover 6, 12, 18, or 24 dB per octave at any given crossover point. When you're done making your adjustments there, we can go back and roll over to the rear outputs. And we have the exact same settings available to us for the rear outputs that we do for the front, but they can be set up independent of one another. So let's go back here, and we can switch the high pass filter off on the rear outputs or switch it on, and we can get into the crossover settings here, the exact same crossover settings, so they can be independent of the front crossovers, and the same slope settings. When you're done making those adjustments, we'll go back and roll over to the next setting, which is the subwoofer output, and we'll enter this one. This is a low-pass filter. That is, we switched off right there, or switched on the low-pass filter, and we'll press enter to go over to the crossover point. And the crossover points are the same here: 50, 63, 80, 100, 125, 160, and 200 hertz. We'll choose the 80 hertz crossover point for right now and press enter. And our slope here is 6, 12, 18, or 24 dB per octave. We'll leave that at 24 dB per octave right now, and go back one more layer. There's our crossover settings, and we'll roll over to the next selection, which is the listening position selection. Now, listening position, and when I go to the next setting here, I have my save settings. Let's go into the listening position here. Right now you can see that the listening position is switched off. If we roll over with the volume control, the listening position is focused on the front left, or the front right, or the front, all seats in the front, or all seats in the vehicle. So we'll go back around, have it switched off, and to the front left. Now I'm going to go back. We have the position switched on now, and so our next setting is our time alignment settings. You only get the time alignment settings if the listening position is switched on. And in the time alignment settings, we can do a setup for the time alignment, auto time alignment, using the external microphone, the CDMC20, optional CDMC20 microphone. For a full explanation about the time alignment settings, please check out the time alignment settings video. Now we'll roll over to the next setting here, which is where we can save our settings. Now at any time when you've created your crossovers and slopes and speaker level settings, don't be afraid to whip out your phone and snap a photo of your settings. That's a great way to save them. But you can also save your settings here. There, we will confirm yes that we want to save the settings, and they have been saved. Now you can go back in there and make any adjustments that you want. And our next setting is to load the settings that you've already saved. So go back, make any adjustments that you want. If you don't like the way that things sound, you can come back here and load the settings. And we'll roll over to our next setting, which is our bass boost. And here we can add a little more bottom into the system if we want, or back it down to 0. And we'll go back and roll over to the next setting, which is our loudness control. And loudness has a couple of different levels, low, mid, and high. Touch it one more time and loudness is switched off. And loudness will help compensate at low volume controls and give you better sound quality. We'll roll over to the next setting here, which is our auto level control. Now auto level control has a couple of different settings: off, mode 1, and mode 2. And auto level control will help to compensate between different types of recorded music and levels in recorded music to give you an even sound volume level between sources and between different types of recorded files. So we'll set that to mode number 1 for right now, and we'll go back and roll over to the next setting, which is SLA, or our source level adjuster. Now if you recall, when we started this video, we started on the auxiliary input, and SLA is the source level adjuster, or an independent volume control for each source in the system. So the CD source, USB, auxiliary, Bluetooth audio, all compared to FM. So right now we're on the auxiliary source, and I can make the auxiliary source a little louder or a little quieter as compared to FM. So you have an independent SLA, or source level adjuster, for each source in the system as compared to FM. If you're on the AM/FM radio source, the SLA function here is not in the list. So let's roll over to the next setting, which takes us back around to our EQ settings. When you're done making your adjustments to the audio system, you can press the band button to escape.